Yo, what's poppin', guys? Sizzle here, and today we're taking a look at CSGO Weapons Case 2. First off, we have the FAMAS Hexane, which I think uses the same design as the AWP Electric Hive or whatever, because it just has all the hexagons going through the thing. But for the background, instead of just a nice solid black color, or whatever the Hive had that just looks solid, it has a weird pattern. It just kind of looks like someone spilled something on it. It really does not look good. Already just off the base design, it does not look good. And then it's also an old FAMAS, so it's really scratched, despite being pretty fact new. .04 is pretty high up there. So it's just kind of a shit tier skin. I really just wouldn't use this over stock. I prefer stock to the look of this thing. As much as it definitely is different from stock and has its own design, I personally can never recommend using this thing. It just looks horrible. Then we have the P250 Hive, which has the same hexagon pattern, but a background of more like almost like honey. And when it's called the hive, that kind of makes sense. It's like a beehive, right? And it actually kind of gets the point across pretty well. It's a very simple pattern, but it very much does its job, and it looks very unique. There's not really any honey-colored, honey pattern, whatever skins at all that I can think of. And nothing with really this color of orange, unless I'm forgetting something. It's actually a pretty unique coloring just on its own. And that's aside from it already just looking really nice, right? You can see like almost like you can see where it's like brighter and darker. Kind of goes with how, like you'd expect like a real thing of honey to look. So it just looks solid. I'd say you definitely can't go wrong using this one. I'm almost inclined to put in B tiers from being like super unique and just looking solid, but it's definitely something you can't go wrong with. I'll give it that much credit. It's definitely C tier placement, no question about it. Then we have the Tec9 Blue Titanium, which is it's a stock Tec9 with it's not really blue on the top. I would consider that to still be gray, like a grayish blue top. That's literally the only difference. This is not something I would pay extra for, and since this is an old skin, this costs $3. Someone would spend $3 on something like this. I don't know why, other than for trade-ups maybe, or just to have an old skin. But this thing really doesn't look that great. I would honestly just stick to stock. I cannot recommend buying this. It's just not different enough from stock personally. Anyway, next up we have the Scar 20 Crimson Web, which is interesting. It's like half Crimson Web, half stock. I'm not really sure why they did that. Like the scope is stock, the bottom here is stock, and the front is stock. And then Crimson Web's just on this part of the middle, that, and then the handle. Kind of weird how they did that, and this is just under fact new, but that's a lot of scratching for being a higher tier minware skin. So that's just another negative for this thing. At least with this one, it's considerably different from stock, and in game it might not have as much stock available because a lot of time the bottom parts of a skin will get cut off. I can't remember exactly how the scar gets cut off, but I'm hoping it gets cut off like this or something, so that you just get the best part of the skin. And even then, I mean, I don't like the Crimson Web design myself, so I can't put it too high, but I'll at least give this one credit in D tier. I can see why some people might use this. I mean, especially if they have all the other Crimson Web skins. Anyway, next up we have the M41 Blood Tiger. I actually have one of these myself, not because I particularly like the skin, but because I have a bunch of nice stickers on there. Like I have a King on the Field or whatever on mine, and I gave an identical looking one to my friend. But that's beside the point. It's a camo skin, but with some like blood smears on it. It has virtually zero effect. Like lighting has like no effect on it. And this is a high fact new one. I actually have one myself that doesn't look this scratched. This just might be a really bad pattern or something because there's a lot of white like marks of scratches and stuff all over it. But overall, it's just a kind of camo skin, standard camo skin. Maybe it's a bit cooler because I guess it's a blood camo skin, but I'm really not the biggest fan of camo skins. And even though I have this equipped right now, I don't particularly like it, so it's going in the D tier for me. Then next up, we have the dual Burritos hemoglobin, which is just half stock, half like red, almost looks like blood, like kind of like if you think about like blood under like a somewhat of a microscope or something, right? I mean, hemoglobin I think is actually like a medical term or something, so it probably has something to do with that. But it reminds me of just like blood or whatever. And despite it being half stock, it actually works pretty well because it's half stock, half red, and the half that's red is the more dominant part, so it actually kind of just looks like a cool like red casing to it. I mean, it's nothing really crazy, but I definitely say you can't go too wrong with this. It's just a really solid red redesign. It actually has a lot of good looking effects in different amounts of lighting. Like it changes a lot in the light, and it always looks good. So for me, it's a low C tier. Not nowhere near as good as the Hive. The Hive is actually pretty solid skin, but I can't say you can go too wrong with these. Then we have the Nova Graphite, which yeah, it's a Graphite Nova. It shines a lot on the back, and then the front is pretty much identical. It's okay. It looks different enough from stock to be its own thing, but not that much. You know, I wouldn't spend too much on this. If it was a cheap skin like it was back in the day, yeah, maybe I'd get this. I mean, it's just a solid like metallic shiny look to the whole thing, and it looks okay. You can definitely do better though, especially for the price nowadays. Anyway, then we have the MP9 Hypnotic. I actually have one of these as well, but it's not particularly great. I mean, it definitely isn't bad, but it's just a bunch of rings going around. It can look really bad in quite a good amount of lighting. The reason I actually have one is I have like a Hypnotic surfer sticker on the front of mine, so that it kind of actually works better in lighting because then it contrasts the skin. But without that sticker there, I mean, the skin itself is it's kind of mid at best. Honestly, this is like right above C tier, where it's like it's okay. Um, but it definitely isn't anything crazy, right? It's not really good by any stretch of the imagination. I just can't really particularly call this one bad. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with for that. Then we have the 5.7 Case Harden, one of the iconic Case Harden skins. I'm pretty sure you can get blue gems of this too. And if you do, I think the blue gem's probably the coolest thing you can get here. But yeah, it's a Case Harden, really iconic CS skin, and it works really well in the 5.7 like upper casing. It looks really nice in game, especially if you have a nice pattern. They don't have one here, but if you do, it's really good. And it's one of those skins where the float actually just affects the lighting and not how like scratched up it is, which is just another benefit. Pretty much all of them are going to look somewhat solid at least. It's definitely a pretty well-known skin, and I think it looks pretty solid to the point of at least being a B tier skin. It's not anywhere near as cool as the AK Case Harden, but it's pretty good on its own. Then we have the USPS Serum, one of the classic trade-up skins. It's just the Blood Tiger, but since it's on a smaller weapon, you can see the camo more, which is actually almost bad because you can see how poorly made and how old this camo kind of is. This is a pretty high-fact new one too, and it's really scratched up. That's pretty standard for a lot of USPS skins. That being said, it's like a really shit tier camo skin to the point where it's barely above F in my opinion. Like the Blood Tiger's like so stretched out and there's like so much of it that somehow it looks like a complete camo skin. On this thing, on the USPS, you can just see a lot of like gray, which almost just looks worse than stock. Like if they did a full gray out of the USPS, it would look horrible in my opinion. I would never want to use that. Anyway, and we have the P90 Coldblooded, the most iconic trade-up skin pretty much of all time. And I can see why. It's not really good. It's like a metallic red on half of it. The front part that you see in game is still stock though, which doesn't really fit together well. And I guess that's supposed to be a snake PNG going across the thing, but it gets cut off by several parts of this. Like every little hole on this, like just goes directly through the snake, and it doesn't look like it was there with the skin in mind. It's a shit tier skin. I mean, it's iconic for trade-ups because it's so bad that there's no other reason to really use it. And yeah, I mean that's all there really is to say about it. It like just looks horrible. Just use stock. Never buy this thing unless you're doing some trade-ups. Then finally we have the Scout's Blood in the Water, which is it's mid, right? The problem with this one is that yet again it's one of those skins where half of it is stock. But the difference is here, the part that isn't actually looks kind of dope in my opinion. You get like the shark, right? This is like right where the cutoff is on your screen, I'm pretty sure, for a skin. So you have the shark like rushing out towards some blood, which, you know, blood in the water, right? That's the thing sharks are kind of known for, is rushing toward any sense of blood. They can smell blood for like 15 miles or whatever. I don't know the actual statistic, but it's a long distance to the point. And it looks well made, right? The shark looks nice, the blood looks good, it's coming out the right part. The only real downside is it only uses half of the skin, but honestly, the part that it does use is a good part of the skin, and it just fades in really nicely. And the part of the design that is design is good. The part that isn't is not a design. But yeah, honestly, I kind of like this one. I'm gonna put in C tier. I'd say it's actually, it's probably better than the Hypnotic in my opinion. It's a pretty solid looking design. Just unfortunate that it doesn't use the whole skin. I mean, this is actually not even a fact new one, and you can actually only barely see the scratches. They'd all be off screen back here, so that's a good thing. And yeah, that's it for the weapons case 2. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.